wanted. Chinese authorities have accused 20 Taiwanese military personnel of carrying out a cyber attack, but Taiwan says it's a smear campaign. Taiwan remembers Tiananmen Square 36 years after the brutal crackdown on pro-democracy protesters in China. Plus, a moonshot in the making. Taiwan's first lunar payload is a hopeful day away from making history aboard Asia's first private moonlander. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Liao. Beijing is putting bounties on the heads of more than 20 Taiwanese military personnel, accusing them of launching cyber attacks against China. It's also published their photos and put personal details online. Taiwan's defense ministry denies the accusations and says the move is a form of coercion. Reporter Chris Gorin has been following this story and joins us now from our Taipei newsroom. Chris, what exactly is China alleging here?
Well, as you said, Leslie, China is accusing these 20 members of the military's Information, Communication, and Electronics Command, or ISEFCOM, of being part of a secret cyber army that carried out cyber attacks against a Chinese tech company last week, which Taiwan denied at the time. And the Chinese authorities in Guangzhou province even published the photos, full name, and Taiwanese ID numbers of all 20 people. And they're offering bounties of up to $1,400 for information leading to the arrest of each of these people. Now, separately, they released a report which describes ISEFCOM as being a kind of secret army of Taiwan's ruling Democratic Progressive Party, carrying out cyber attacks on China's communications, transportation, and defense networks, and Beijing says working with foreign intelligence agencies like the CIA, accusations that China has made before. But there's much more in the report, but that should give you a kind of flavor of what's in it.
All right, Chris, so how is Taiwan's government responding here?
Well, ISEFCOM has flatly denied the allegations. Let's take a listen.
自动电军核心任务系维护国防资讯，确保网络安全。中共以部分国军人员各资抹黑自通电军执行契约网攻，绝非事实，明显属脉络性的操作，凸显其以恫吓威逼压迫台湾民众的蛮横心态。
Now, ISEFCOM also says that China is the one carrying out cyber attacks, citing an example from last week, a cyber attack against the Czech Foreign Ministry. And Taiwan has previously said that it's fending off more than 2 million cyber attacks every single day, most of which are coming from China. Now, regarding the bounties, Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council, which handles cross-strait relations, issued a warning to any Taiwanese people who might be thinking about working to help China find these people in Taiwan.
不管是抓谁，如果有民众配合中共提供资料或是什么的话，我们认为这个有国安法的问题，那所以大家不要为了1万块人民币，1万块人民币随随便便做这些事。
Now, there was a similar case of China outing the identity of Taiwanese cyber workers just last year. And cybersecurity experts I've been speaking to say that this shouldn't be seen as a criminal prosecution in China of these cyber workers, but rather as part of China's broader communications and infiltration campaign to influence Taiwan public opinion. And they say that we should expect more such attacks in the future. Leslie?
All right, well, thank you for taking us through that, Chris. That was Chris Gorin reporting from the TaiwanPlus newsroom in Taipei. Politicians are responding to bomb threats sent by email to multiple government agencies. The messages were sent ahead of a memorial event in Taipei commemorating the 36th anniversary of the Tiananmen crackdown.
台湾是法治国家，没有人可以对于任何一个人来发动暴力恐吓。那尤其昨天6·4。 针对国家元首，我们的行政部门，我们来对于6·4来进行相关的一些追忆，来在这个可怜的日子里，来提醒大家，我们要持续的来反对反民主、反禁锢的威胁。
The threatening emails demanded that Taiwan cancel events to remember the deadly crackdown on democracy protesters in Beijing in 1989. They reportedly said that bombs had been placed around government buildings, including the presidential office and the cabinet building, and would be detonated if any memorials went forward. The senator also said they would commit a shooting at the Taipei Vigil. None of the threats were carried out. Police say they're still investigating the case. Last night's commemorations of the June 4th incident brought together Tiananmen Square survivors as well as Uyghur, Tibetan, and Hong Kong activists in exile. As Rick Liao reports, remembering the massacre is becoming more and more important in Taiwan.
Remembering those who died in pursuit of democracy. In the center of Taipei, hundreds gather to commemorate the 36th anniversary of Tiananmen Square. Also known by its date, June 4th, that day, a democracy movement in China was brutally oppressed by Chinese soldiers opening fire on crowds.
我们知道，就是之前这个6·4天安门事件这个事情，其实对整个台湾来说，应该是说对整个中国大陆来说，是一个记忆。那可是经过了这么多年，就是中国共产党这边，他们把这个记忆给抹杀掉了。
就是纪念6·4，然后希望中国有一天可以民主化，因为我认为说民主自由是一个普世价值。那我们应该要去纪念在世界各地为了争取这个价值而牺牲的人们。
我会觉得说6·4算是一个很重要的民主历程，在对于我香港还是中国来讲的话，甚至我觉得应该说全世界也应该都是同样的，因为民主自由，然后人权的话，应该都是无分国籍的。
Taiwan is now the only place in the Chinese-speaking world with large public vigils commemorating Tiananmen Square. Every year, hundreds of people gather here in the heart of the capital, Taipei, to mark the anniversary of Beijing's brutal crackdown at Tiananmen Square. It's an event that's taking on added resonance in recent years, as commemorations like this are still taboo in mainland China and now impossible in Hong Kong. For decades, Hong Kong's Victoria Park looked like this on June 4th, with as many as hundreds of thousands of people gathering to mark a date scratched from history just across the border in mainland China. But this year, even holding a white flower meant being taken away by national security police. A new normal here after Beijing cracked down on the once semi-autonomous territory after mass pro-democracy protests. And for the first time in Taiwan, Hong Kongers in exile held their own vigil here.
從香港維多利亞公園走到台北228和平公園，係咪？代表香港人呢，無論佢身處喺邊一個地方，佢都唔會忘記1989年嘅時候共產黨屠殺人民。
Memorials here in Taiwan take place as China ups its pressure over the island nation to accept its claims of sovereignty, sending military boats and planes around the island, but also using so-called grey zone warfare tactics like cyber attacks and disinformation. Organisers and government officials pushing ahead with memorials despite bomb threats for commemorating one of the darkest chapters in modern Chinese history.
It shows Taiwan's value. It shows the difference between Taiwan and China. When people use this kind of a ceremony to memorize the Tiananmen incident, when the international society show this message, it means Chinese government, they also need to know the world is watching them.
For many people here in Taiwan, remembering Tiananmen is not just about the past. It's about the present and future threats to this democracy by China. In a world where authoritarianism is expanding, this island democracy wants to carry the torch, not only for those who died in Beijing nearly 4 decades ago, but for those whose freedom is under threat today. Scott Huang, Hank Xu, Andy Shuer and Rick Liao in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Guatemalan President Bernardo Arévalo has told Taiwan President Lai Ching-te he is willing to take steps to advance relations with Taiwan.
Porque nos toca en este momento dar un nuevo paso en la construcción de las relaciones entre nuestros países. La relación entre Guatemala y la República de China Taiwán ha avanzado de forma importante.
President Arevalo is on his first state visit to Taiwan since taking office last year. He is accompanied by Guatemala's foreign minister, economy minister, and other officials. Arevalo says he plans to advance strategic ties with Taiwan in sectors including education, agriculture, and technology. President Liao says Taiwan will continue to expand cooperation with Guatemala as well.
未来，台湾和瓜地马拉将会在互惠互助的基础上，持续推动符合国际趋势的计划。
Guatemala is one of Taiwan's 12 remaining diplomatic allies and has faced pressure from Beijing to sever official ties with Taipei. U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin have spoken for over an hour discussing issues from the war in Ukraine to Iran's nuclear weapons program. Trump says Putin has vowed to hit back at Ukraine after a surprise drone attack on Russian warplanes. He says the conversation was positive, but that it won't lead to immediate peace. The Kremlin has confirmed the call. The U.S. Trump administration is renegotiating some Biden-era grants to semiconductor firms, suggesting some awards may be cut. At a Wednesday hearing, U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said some of the act's grants may be overly generous. He also pointed to Taiwanese semiconductor giant TSMC's increased investment in the U.S. as an example of successful renegotiation. The company initially pledged $65 billion, which it later increased by an additional $100 billion. TSMC declined to comment on Lutnick's statement. Former U.S. President Joe Biden signed the CHIPS Act into law in 2022. The act set aside over $50 billion to attract global chip-making firms to invest in U.S.-based research and production. The U.S. has used its veto power to block a UN Security Council resolution calling for an immediate, unconditional ceasefire in Gaza.
The United States has been clear. We would not support any measure that fails to condemn Hamas and does not call for Hamas to disarm and leave Gaza.
The resolution had called for the release of all hostages held by Hamas and the lifting of restrictions on aid to Gaza. Israel has thanked the U.S., while the Palestinian permanent observer to the UN said the resolution had made minimal demands and called the U.S. veto unfortunate. This is the fifth UN resolution on Gaza the U.S. has blocked since the start of the Israel-Hamas war in 2023. Coming up after the break, Taiwan rolls on two wheels. Join us as we take a look at the country's growing love of tricked-out custom motorbikes.
For more news from Taiwan and around the world, download our app or check out the TaiwanPlus website. Ready? Go.
Ready.
Just jump.
Okay, jump!
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Police say the driver who killed 3 people after slamming into a crowded intersection in New Taipei City last month did it on purpose. Investigators have been looking into the crash, which left 12 others injured, many of them children. The driver, a 78-year-old man, has since died from his injuries, but under Taiwanese law, the victims and their families can still file civil claims against his heirs. Local prosecutors are now taking over the case. A fire aboard a ship carrying cars from China to Mexico has forced the crew to evacuate. The crew had to abandon ship off Alaska after it couldn't put out the fire. The ship was carrying 3,000 vehicles, including 800 electric ones. The U.S. Coast Guard is sending an air crew and a cutter ship to deal with the situation. Crews often struggle to put out fires involving electric vehicles, which often stay very hot and risk reigniting, sometimes for days. Japanese firm ispace is looking to become Asia's first private company to make it to the moon. Its lander has been traveling through space for over 4 months to prepare for this moment. On board is also Taiwan's first ever lunar device. Joyce Sung brings us this latest from Tokyo.
On the cusp of making history, the Resilience lander is almost at its destination, capturing this video just hours ago in lunar orbit. Built by Tokyo-based firm ispace, it could soon become Asia's first commercial spacecraft to touch down on the moon. Here at the firm's headquarters, Executive Business Director and CFO Junpei Nozaki says the team has come a long way to reach landing day.
We are really excited about that, and we are very proud about our kind of progress coming so far. But at the same time, also very nervous, to be honest, right?
With Resilience, ispace is hoping to redeem itself after its first lander crashed on the moon in 2023.
We could not complete the landing on the lunar surface.
This time, Nozaki says they've learned from what went wrong and adjusted their approach. Though unmanned, the lunar mission has brought 6 objects along for the ride. One of them, Taiwan's first ever lunar probe, made by students at a public research university in northern Taiwan. It's been measuring radiation in deep space since the lander was first launched in January. That data can help make future missions safer. The school was introduced to ispace by Taiwanese entrepreneur Bill Chang. We caught up with Chang in Taipei. He says even before the lunar landing, Taiwan's Deep Space Radiation Probe, or DSRP, can already be considered a success.
The environment around the Earth is more like an onion. Every layers the DSRP passing through, you can collect different data. Every second, every day, DSRP is making new record. The moon is over 384,000 kilometers away. And you have to remember that even the most advanced, for most our national satellites, under 1,000 kilometers.
Also on board Resilience is this micro rover made by ispace's Europe team, which is set to be deployed to collect samples of the moon's surface. Nozaki says studying the moon is a joint effort, drawing on expertise from different countries towards the same goal.
Space does not have any border. And also the space demand is, we don't believe that it's coming from a single country in a kind of a sufficient basis at this moment. Rather, especially this next 10 or 20 years, it's starting from all global countries. And each country needs to collaborate.
And to get to ispace's vision for a bustling space economy, it starts with a landing.
Lunar landings are about defying the odds. Statistically, more than half of all moon landing attempts don't make it. Not easy odds to beat, but speaking to people here at ispace, they are determined that they can achieve that soft landing that they're looking for. The hope is that it can be a step towards a larger goal of setting up economic and social links between Earth and the moon, unleashing what they believe will be new possibilities for richer, more sustainable human life. Eason Chen and Joyce Sun in Tokyo for TaiwanPlus.
As you heard there from ispace's Junpei Nozaki, the firm is aiming for more than just a landing. Here's more from Joyce Sung's conversation with Nozaki hours before their moon touchdown attempt.
Mr. Nozaki-san, we are hours away until the moon landing attempt. How are you feeling?
Kind of mixed feeling, to be honest. I mean, of course, excited, but we have been waiting for this moment for like 5 or 7, more than 7 years, I think, since we started. We started this lander development in 2016 to 17, and at that time, something really amazing idea is, even at that time, we are thinking about, let's do 2 missions anyway first, because it's not, we are thinking about the future, commercialized mission, right? So to do that, it's not only kind of one-time challenge, and we are very proud about our kind of progress coming so far. But at the same time, also very nervous, to be honest. Right? We have many stakeholders, around us. So it's a really important mission for many of us.
You mentioned that Mission 2 was always part of the plan, but can you take us through differences in approach?
When the first mission finished, very lucky things for us was we know what was the root cause of that Mission 1 landing failure. Apart from landing phase, other than that, hardware things, those were performing perfectly. Mission 2, we want to have a completion of this lunar landing, of course, but it's a gradual progress of the process, right? And so Mission 2, one of the important key messages is landing and beyond. So what we do after landing. So we had our own micro rover developed by ispace Europe. Once after landing on the moon surface, we deployed this rover, and we ispace will also operate this micro rover and do many kind of experiments on the lunar surface. Many countries, they are thinking about creating some moon base on the lunar surface, but that is to create those type of moon base, before that, we need to do many experiments beforehand.
And what was it like collaborating with the Taiwan student team?
We feel this kind of, maybe it's a good word, is we feel very good hope here, because first of all, this is a university. The people we're discussing with, Central University of Taiwan, it includes also young students, relatively young from ourselves. But so those are including us, but we are exactly the generation going to lead this space industry in the next 20 to 30 years, right? We really want to cherish this kind of, important starting from the university. And I just explained, ispace was also started from a university company.
That was Junpei Nozaki, Director and CFO of ispace. Join us tomorrow as we follow the firm's attempt to land on the moon. Custom-modified motorbikes have long had a fan base among a certain subset of Taiwanese bikers, but it's only recently that the wider public is coming to appreciate them both as vehicles and as works of art. John Van Trieste takes a look into a subculture emerging from the underground.
When Gao Xiangyan was a student, he never imagined he'd be a respected craftsman working on custom motorbikes. This was someone who'd studied telecommunications engineering, not the sort of person used to working with their hands. But a failed quest to trick out his first motorbike set him on a path that would become his life's work. Gao's career as a remodeler of motorbikes didn't start out smoothly. He says he had no credentials or reputation, and so getting customers was tough at first. But he ignored the temptation to give up, and now has a place as a professional in a niche but growing biker subculture. He's far from alone in the field, though, as new talents are building a name and carving out a place for themselves all the time. Huang Minglong is 24 and was a rising star from his first attempt at turning a bike into a unique creation.
我就在朋友的工厂里面打造了一台属于自己的手工车，然后那时候刚好在这个手工车界里面有一场比赛，对，所以说我就抱持着试试看的心情，就去报名了那场比赛。结果就成功让我拿到了第2名。而就在我成立工作室的这1年，我又再次去参加了这个比赛，结果就很荣幸的又拿到第1名。
His dream now is to enter a competition in the U.S. and win, putting Taiwan's custom bike scene on the map. Motorbike redesigners like these are resourceful people. They often have to search out long discontinued parts from obscure overseas sources. They need a wide range of contacts, even furniture upholsterers to provide the right foam so the seats are perfect. They do their own part making and DIY assembly as well. And And of course, they have to test out their creations themselves too, checking to make sure everything is up to the highest standards. Maybe the hardest thing they have to do, though, is push back against misunderstanding about what they do. Taiwan has over 14 million scooters and motorbikes, but these are mostly standard models. And even though people have been customizing bikes in Taiwan for at least 20 years, there's still a sense that these bikes are dangerous, or worse.
台湾的改装法规其实是非常的完善的，但重点在于认知问题。今天不管是民众的认知、警察的认知、检验人员的认知，他们都完全不一样。他们就会认定为只要改装就是违法。
But they say this isn't what the law actually says. As the custom bike subculture grows, there are hopes in the community for even more explicit leeway from the government.
那未来，那我都更较好，我当然会当参像日本、像美国安尼，算讲咱这个物件是政府甲咱讲，你改后倒摆是会使，你是爱改安全，你爱改到较好。那安尼，咱一般的店家吼，若讲要来做，还是讲要来带少年的继续做，其实是较有立足的店。
These DIY bike modders say what they do is a form of art, and they hope for greater freedom to express themselves and keep a thriving scene expanding. Luffy Lee and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
And thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. Finally today, we take you to New York, where fans are gearing up for the launch of the Switch 2. I'm Liao. Take care and see you next time.